With just hours to go for the opening ceremony of the Beijing Winter Games, protests against the Games were held across the world. In San Francisco, a coalition of groups, including people from Hong Kong, Tibet and Uyghurs, gathered at the Golden Gate Bridge and urged people not to watch the Games. Similar protests were also held in Los Angeles. The United States is leading a diplomatic boycott of the Olympic Games over China's human rights violations, especially against the Uyghur minorities in the region of Xinjiang. The West has accused China of committing crimes against humanity in Xinjiang, an accusation that China denies.
Boycott, fight!
No medal is worth more than human rights.
No medal is worth more than human rights.
More than gold. Human rights is worth.
NDC! Terrorist Xi Jinping! Terrorist Xi Jinping!
Well, it's very important to let the world know that China doesn't deserve to this privilege to host the Winter Olympics, and especially the crimes that they've been committing against Uyghurs, Tibetans, and other minority groups.
In Tokyo, too, protesters rallied in front of the Chinese embassy in Tokyo. This protest comes as Japan's lower house of parliament passed a resolution this week against human rights abuses in China.
Olympics は平和の祭典ですから、これはその資格のある人間たちがやる分についてはこれは問題ないと思うんですけども、中国共産党、中華人民共和国にですね、その資格があるかどうかは大いに疑問のあるところだと思います。
In India, too, Tibetans are protesting outside the Chinese embassy against the Winter Olympics. This a day after India also announced a diplomatic boycott of the Games. WION's principal diplomatic correspondent Siddhant Sibal has sent us this report.
Well, as the Beijing Winter Olympics begins, there's a lot of controversy regarding it. Here in Delhi, the Tibetans are protesting against the Olympics because, of course, what's happening in Tibet. They talk about the human rights violation in Tibet. If we talk about what has been happening so far ahead of the Olympics, a lot of countries have diplomatically boycotted it. India announced its diplomatic boycott yesterday evening after the Chinese side provoked by putting a Galwan commander, Chinese Galwan commander who's involved in the Galwan aggression as the torch bearer in the Olympics. This is seen as a politicization of the Olympics by the Chinese, and that is why, despite India earlier affirming that it is not going to boycott it, it has reversed the decision, and of course there will be no participation by India's top diplomat in Beijing in the opening and the closing ceremony of the Olympics. Of course, we know that one Indian athlete will be present, but largely this is perhaps the most controversial Olympics since early 1980s, and it looks like it is largely because of the Chinese actions globally. With video journalist Neeraj Patel, Siddhant Sibal for WION in New Delhi.
WION is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news on the move.